Hey, everybody. Thanks for being patient. I got on as soon as I had some decent dinner. So we're going to just have yet another late night stream, obviously reacting to today's big news. Glad you all could be here with me. Let's do it. Should be a great conversation.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
All righty, everybody. Welcome. So glad to be here with all of you. We're just going to do another late night stream. Just normal reacting to today's news. But for those of you who might not be familiar with the way we do things on this channel, generally I give my opening remarks followed by a roll call where we find out who it is on the other side of the camera who's watching. Names and locations. It's always exciting. It's always very global and, always very interesting. Then after that, I answer your super chat questions for the rest of the night. So if you're watching right now and you're on Rumble, what you need to do, if you have something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, is you need to send me a Rumble rant. And if you are watching and you're on YouTube and you got something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, all you need to do is send a YouTube super chat. And if you're watching on Facebook right now, you're shit out of luck. I'm just kidding. You're not shit out of luck, but you just need to go to YouTube or Facebook and send me a super chat or a Rumble rant. That's the way it works. Hey, life happens, stuff happens. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So first things first, I do want to remind you all about this great new tradition. This new, I don't know if tradition is the right word, this new thing that we are doing at CPI. We've done it. We did it before. We got on a kick doing it last fall, and then we just kind of stopped. And now we've started it up again, and it's going strong. Every morning on the CPI YouTube channel, we have a morning message. This is a morning message from the Center for Political Innovation. And different members make it every day. There'll be one for tomorrow, you can be sure. It's just a way to start your day with revolutionary hope and optimism. And it's just a way that we can support each other and hold each other up as we make our way through this society, it's a hard time for a lot of us. There's a lot of toxicity in all quarters. So it's hard, but we've got to hold each other up. We got to be there for each other. We got to stand with our comrades. We got to be brothers and sisters in this society that is going through mass insanity. So every morning we do have a morning message to help people start their day with revolutionary hope and optimism. And it's on the Center for Political Innovation YouTube channel. That's a great way to do it. So sign up for the CPI YouTube channel, listen to the morning messages, and even better, we had a great morning message this morning from Briggy. Even better, if you want, you can submit a morning message. You can make one. It used to be that if you wanted to make one, there was this long process. You had to email me and stuff. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can, with this link, submit a morning message, and it goes directly to us, and it goes from there. It's really, really easy. So if you want to make a morning message, you want to take a whack at it, all you need to do is excuse me. All you need to do is send a, you can just pull up this link on your phone and, submit the morning message. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted. I'm being messaged by all kinds of people. I'm trying to focus on my stream, but various people are distracting me. I'm trying to just focus and do the best job. And that's good that I haven't started my opening remarks yet. But we do have this morning message thing on the CBI YouTube channel. So we got that. There's a couple other announcements. We got the petition going on. I will probably announce that later. There's other announcements I can make, but I'll hold off on that for now because we all came here to talk about Joe Biden. But we all also came here to talk about Kamala Harris. Now, folks, there's this thing that keeps happening where I know something and I really know it and I say it. And then what I know and what I say turns out to be 10 times more true than I even realized. It's a tradition, or it's not a tradition. It's like a word of advice I was given a long time ago by somebody. They said, if you don't know that something is true, don't say it. And if you do know that something is true and you really know that it's true, don't be afraid to scream it from the heavens. Don't be afraid to say it, even if it makes people uncomfortable, even if it's a little bit hard for people to swallow. Go ahead and say it because you know that it's true. And there's different people who talk about these things. I've heard people speculate that if you really know something, you really believe it, but you're biting your tongue, you're just not letting it out. That can cause all kinds of anxiety, etc. And that, you don't have to say everything. Right? Just because somebody's annoying you or just because somebody's doing something that grinds your gears, you don't have to say something. And you don't have to, point out every truth. You don't have to impress everybody with every amount of knowledge that you have, right? There's something to be said for restraint. There's something to be said for picking your battles. There's something to be said for restraint and self-control and being selective in what you do. But that said, if you really do know something that is absolutely true and it needs to be said, go ahead and say it. And that is a good rule to live by. And I haven't always lived by that rule. I'll be honest. There are times I've wished I'd spoken up and said things when I didn't. And there have been times where I've said things that I wish I hadn't. I look back on it and I say, was it really necessary to stir the pot like that? I'm not going to tell you that I'm a perfect example of living this way. Would not tell you that. However, when it comes to our vice president, Kamala Harris, I feel like I was right. And I don't want to be right. And actually, I'm honestly sickened by the fact that there's a very, very good chance she could be the nominee for president of the Democratic Party. And I'm sickened by that because it's like you would think I would be jumping up and down. Yay, I was right. I was right. I was right. Yay, my book is going to sell. I'm not doing that because I'm honestly terrified of what a presidency of Kamala Harris would actually mean. I'm not thrilled. I am not thrilled about the fact that Kamala Harris could be the Democratic Party's nominee for president and could very easily be the president. Honestly, I'm not thrilled with Mike Johnson and his letter that he wrote urging Biden to step down immediately so she becomes president before January. I have been raising the alarm about Kamala Harris and how dangerous she is for quite some time, and nobody bothers, nobody talks about it. I am shocked that it took Joe Biden this long to step down. Why did Biden not step down 2 years ago? I don't know. Why did Biden, I'm shocked that it took Biden this long to step down, but there's a reason that it took Biden this long to step down. And this is what I'm telling you all. There's a reason that Hillary Clinton immediately endorsed Kamala Harris. And there's a reason that Barack Hussein Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris. Like, I'm telling you, I have figured this out from the beginning, and I don't want to be right about this. My God. So in 2020, when Hillary Clinton was not going to be in the race, Kamala Harris was a presidential candidate, and she became the vice presidential nominee. And so I wrote a book, and I published it in September of 2020. And this book, you go read the reviews of it on Goodreads. You go read the reviews of it on Amazon. The review of it that was published in the Morning Star. This book that I wrote, it was right on. And everyone who has read this book, Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an essay in 3 parts that I wrote, everyone who's read it has been blown away, because every year after I've written it, more information has come out confirming that what I said about Kamala Harris was 100% correct. It was more correct than even I knew. And how did this happen? How is it that I wrote this book? And you want to know how good this book is. You go to Goodreads, and you look at the reviews of it on Goodreads. The serious, Amazon is just a site where people buy books, but Goodreads is like a more scholarly, bookish thing. People compare me to Isaac Deutscher people are blown away. Read the lengthy reviews of this book that you can find on Goodreads, right? This book, it was a masterpiece, I must say. Of all the things I have written, I've written a lot of different things, and sometimes I feel like I write very well. Other times I do my best, but this one was a masterpiece. It was my pandemic book. Amid the COVID lockdowns, I had a lot of time to do a lot of research on Kamala Harris. How did this book come into being? Well, this book came into being because somebody that I knew at the time, I cannot say who, out of respect for that person, somebody that I knew was an acquaintance of Donald Harris, the father of Kamala Harris. And he told me about how Kamala Harris's father is a Marxist economist. Wow, that's big. And I thought that was interesting. I thought, wow, Kamala Harris's father was a Marxist economist. And then I started reading, and I thought it was rather strange that with Barack Obama, we learned all about Reverend Jeremiah Wright, his pastor. We learned all about the Muslim school in Indonesia that he went to. We learned all about his mother and how, Anita Dunham, or Ann Dunham, was a researcher and an academic. We learned all about his grandparents and how they were on the board of the Bank of Hawaii. They were from Kansas. We learned all about Barack Hussein Obama's father in Kenya, who he met one time in his life or something like that. When it came to Barack Obama, they told us everything there was to know about Barack Obama, and born in Hawaii and this and that and backwards and forwards. And oh my God, they told us everything there was to know about Barack Obama. But Kamala Harris, nothing. She just speaks really, really well, and she's a woman of color. That's supposed to show that, voting for her means you're like fighting racism and it's so awesome. And that no one did any research into Kamala Harris. But this person who knows Donald Harris or is an acquaintance of Donald Harris, I don't think they're in touch anymore, but they know each other. They knew each other through their academic work. And he told me there's a lot there. There's a lot there. And then Donald Harris denounced Kamala Harris when she was running for president. He denounced her. And he said that he wanted to separate his family from this tragedy of identity politics, this travesty, rather, of identity politics. I quote it all in the book. He wrote a very poignant essay called Reflections of a Jamaican Father. I thought, damn, there's something here. And so I started digging. And I don't have any secret information about Kamala Harris. I never have claimed to have any. All that I have is right there in front of the public. I quote her father and his essay about how he became estranged from her. I quote Kamala Harris. I quote her autobiography. And in this very short book that I put together, which is available wherever books are sold, it's, got wide distribution. You can get your hands on it. In this book, I show you how Kamala Harris became who she is. Kamala Harris has no moral principles. She does not believe that right and wrong exist. Kamala Harris believes that she is above any moral code, above any moral restriction. And we can see that if we look at her record. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre that Kamala Harris presents herself as Miss Black Lives Matter when she was actually the queen of mass incarceration. Reason magazine did great exposés, instance after instance, of Kamala Harris destroying people's lives for her own gain. Instance after instance, right? Instance after instance, instance after instance of destroying people's lives for their own gain. Kamala Harris, when she was the Attorney General of California, the drug labs were rendering false positives. People were testing positive for using drugs when they didn't use drugs. And she did not turn this information over. People were convicted and went to jail on the basis of false positives. Go and read about it in Reason magazine. Her office argued to keep people in prison because the state needed their cheap labor. Can you think of a less moral and ethical reason to keep somebody in jail? Someone's up for release and her office says, well, can you actually not let them out? We need their cheap labor. We don't want to have to hire like law-abiding citizens and pay them benefits and decent wages. Why can you keep them in jail a little longer so we can use their cheap labor? That's Kamala Harris. Kevin Cooper was hours away from getting the death penalty. And the governor of California said, let's find out and make sure he's actually guilty of the crime before we execute him. And Kamala Harris' office pushed back. They didn't want DNA evidence. They wanted to fry the bastard. Well, they got DNA evidence. And they stopped the execution. I'm telling you in order to do the things that Kamala Harris has done, one cannot have a moral compass. One cannot have empathy for other human beings. One cannot be a moral and ethical person. No moral and ethical person can say, oh, the drug labs are turning over false positives. Let's pretend that's not the case because I want some people to go to jail. No moral and ethical person can say, oh, there's a guy on death row and he's going to get the death penalty. Let's make sure that he's guilty of the crime. Nope. Let's just kill him. Let's not worry about this thing about innocence or guilt. Let's just kill him. No moral or ethical person says, geez, there's somebody who's about to be released from jail. Well, what about their cheap labor? I don't care if they deserve to be released. I don't care about justice. I'm worried about how much money we'll save if they're their cheap labor. And there's instance after instance after instance of this in Kamala Harris's past. And I spent pages going over what she did as the queen of mass incarceration in California. California, with its infamous 3-strike law, your third felony, you get 25 years in prison no matter what it is. I believe there was somebody in California whose third felony was cheating on his driver's ed test. He allegedly cheated on his driver's ed test, and they made that his third felony. 25 years in prison for cheating on your driver's ed test. Absolutely ridiculous. There's many cases where Kamala Harris just doesn't care if innocent people get hurt, if innocent people get stepped on. She doesn't care. Why? Why is a bigger question. And everyone wants to say, well, she's a psychopath. She's a psychopath. No, she's not a psychopath. Kamala Harris is not a psychopath. She's, in a weird way, if Kamala Harris was a psychopath, she would be a little bit safer because psychopaths lack empathy and lack real emotions, right? They're purely self-interested and they don't think about other people and they're purely self-interested. Well, that's not Kamala. If you look at Kamala Harris and you study the statements that she has made, you will learn that Kamala Harris is not a psychopath. As Jenny said very well, Kamala has lots of feels. Kamala Harris is what you might call a sadistic narcissist. A sadistic narcissist. Which is, there's different types of narcissists people have talked about. I call her a sadistic narcissist, which is not an official, nobody else has anointed that as a category of narcissism. But if you look at Kamala Harris, it is her narcissism results in her having a desperate desire to harm other people. And so I would call that a sadistic narcissist. A sadist is someone who wants to harm other people. A narcissist is someone who is very self-focused and is indifferent to other people's suffering and focuses only on themselves. I would argue that Kamala Harris is a sadistic narcissist. And I make the case very well in my book. And there are a number of instances that display that. Number one is the infamous clip of her bragging about how she started jailing parents for truancy. Now, Wikipedia has been edited to say that she never did it. But the source doesn't say that. It says there weren't very many prosecutions around. It doesn't say no one was jailed. But she bragged that she started threatening to prosecute and jail parents for truancy. And you watch this video of Kamala Harris bragging about this. She starts it out by saying, I would never be anywhere if it wasn't for my education. So depriving a child of education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided, and then she just starts giggling maniacally because she's just so aroused by the idea of harming somebody. It just gives her this joy. You look at the look in her face, it just gives her this joy, the fact that she could take vengeance on some parents. Obviously, kids need to be in school. If they're not in school, the parents are being neglectful and not getting the kids to school. That's a problem. It doesn't get better if you throw the parents in jail. But Kamala's not thinking about the kid. She's thinking about the thrill that she gets from punishing some parent. That's what she's thinking about. You take a look at the clip for yourself, right? And it doesn't matter. And there are some people now, there's this debate. They say, well, she didn't actually blah, 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 blah. You're missing the point. You are missing the point entirely. Look at this clip and look at how she talks about the issue, right? And that there were prosecutions. They're trying to claim that no one ever went to jail for their kids being truant from school. And that's not in the source material. Wikipedia has been edited to say that, but I don't see that in the articles about it. Take a look at Kamala Harris telling the Commonwealth Club of California about how she started this policy of prosecuting parents for truancy, and look at the look in her eyes as she talks about it. Look at the look on her face.
Not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing.
Who cares? It has absolutely nothing to do with you, Kamala. Whether or not someone goes to jail should have absolutely nothing to do with your feelings, your life, your personal background, how unfair the world was to you. Right off the bat there, you're dealing with an unhealthy person, right? Who in the world begins a statement about who should go to jail with the word I? Right? What criminal prosecutor in the world begins a statement about whether or not someone should go to jail with their reminiscences or where they would be in life? It should have nothing to do with you, Kamala. You did not become prosecutor to battle your childhood demons, to get vengeance on the people who mistreated you, etc. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
Look at the look on her face.
Prosecuting parents.
Oh, look what I did. I just started prosecuting parents for truancy. Look at me.
For truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco.
Yeah. It's a little controversial. The idea of imprisoning parents of low-income children because their kids skipped school. Yeah, it's a little controversy.
And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether...
Look at the squint in her eyes. Look how thrilled she is by the idea that she got to make people afraid. She got to terrorize people. This is an evil person. This is what evil looks like, folks. I
was going to have an opponent in my re-election race.
Oh, look how gleeful. Oh, my God. She gets to hurt somebody.
But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it.
That's right. People's lives.
And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick.
She has a huge stick. Did you hear that? She has a huge stick.
The school district has got a carrot.
The school district's got a carrot.
Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school. So, to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district, outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
She's insane. She is insane. Do you see this?
Held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
She's insane. How does a rational person, like, yes, she's batshit insane. And she's dangerously insane. Like, you have no idea how, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Now, folks, if you want to know how crazy Kamala Harris is, right? When a candidate's running for president, when a candidate is running for president, what? They have t-shirts with their face on it. They have t-shirts with their name on it. They might have a symbol, a slogan. These are the t-shirts that Kamala Harris made for her 2020 presidential campaign. That is 10-year-old Kamala Harris. Folks, that's mental illness. That's narcissism. That's mental illness. That is a huge, huge victim complex. This is beyond anything we've ever seen. Okay. That catchphrase, that little girl was me, was her shouting at Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden had opposed school busing, school integration. And she said that she was from the first class in Oakland, California that was integrated. That little girl was me. The world has just been so unfair to me. Look at my adorable 10-year-old self. Oh, and my father was so horrible. And oh, my mother had to raise us on her own. And oh my God, and poor me. And oh, look how adorable I am. And oh, that little girl was me. This is what Kamala thinks. Right? She doesn't care about all the people she threw in jail because she's thinking about how unfair the world was to poor little Kamala. She doesn't care. She doesn't care. She does not care. She doesn't care about other people. They asked her on The Breakfast Club. She was on this radio program called The Breakfast Club. They said, have you ever smoked marijuana? She said, oh, half my family's from Jamaica. What do you think? Well, I don't think smoking marijuana makes you a bad person. A lot of people do it. The problem, though, is that Kamala Harris jailed thousands of people for doing it. Oh, a little bit different there now, ain't it? A little bit different. If you jailed thousands of people for smoking marijuana, maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't just, oh yeah. Well, look, folks, you have no idea. Donald Harris, Kamala Harris's father, revealed in his essay, Reflections of a Jamaican Father, that there was a custody battle over Kamala Harris and her sister when her parents got divorced. And in that custody battle, they played up the idea that Donald Harris was a thrill-seeking, a pot-smoking joy seeker, was a lazy, the words he used, he said, quote, a Negro from the islands. They played up the idea that Donald Harris, that men from Jamaica, that black men don't make good fathers. And they used that to take custody away so that Donald Harris could not see his sister, his two daughters, Kamala and her younger sister. And so when Donald Harris heard her on the radio, asked if she smoked marijuana, saying half my family's from Jamaica, he got steamed. Because that stereotype of Jamaicans as weed smokers and such was used to take his daughter from him. And he talked about that in his essay. And his entire Jamaican family denounced Kamala Harris when she was running for president. Kamala Harris was sworn in as vice president. Her mother is deceased. Her father was not there. Her father did not attend. Her father has never been at the White House. Her father wants nothing to do with her, and she wants nothing to do with her father. Now, there's a lot written about parental abduction and estrangement that happens in divorces, where the parent uses the children against another parent. That's something that happens. And it appears very much so that regardless of what happened, and we don't know what happened, Donald Harris drops us a few hints, and he may have been a very, I'm not saying Donald Harris was necessarily a great man. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, right? He drops some hints in his writing. She hates his guts, and maybe her hatred is totally justified. I don't know. She hates her father. She hates Donald Harris. She thinks that little girl was a victim, right? She thinks that little girl was me. And so based on that, whatever she does is okay. And that's what Kamala believes. And that the world has been unfair to her. That little girl was me. She was a victim of racism. She lived in Quebec. And when she was in high school, she says absolutely nothing about it. I've heard rumors about what might have happened to her, but I can't confirm them. And I'm not going to repeat them because I can't confirm them. But Kamala Harris feels that the world was unfair to her. And her life has been a campaign of vengeance based on that. She wants revenge against her father. She wants revenge against the world. And the way that she rose up in California politics was that she became the mistress, the unmarried lover of married man Willie Brown. Willie Brown, mayor of San Francisco, local San Francisco politician. She became his unmarried lover. And she would go to nightclubs with him, and Willie Brown would be seen there with this young, beautiful woman named Kamala Harris. And Willie Brown helped Kamala Harris rise up the ranks of Bay Area politics. And who is Willie Brown? Well, Willie Brown's this maverick politician from the Bay Area. But how did Willie Brown become famous? Well, Willie Brown was a pimp lawyer. If a woman was arrested for prostitution, if a pimp was arrested for pimping, word went out that if Willie Brown was your attorney, the judge would let you off. And Willie Brown became the prostitution lawyer, the pimp prostitute lawyer in San Francisco. And that's how his career took off. And when he was mayor and when he was an attorney, Willie Brown had a mistress, and her name was Kamala Harris. That's how Kamala Harris rose up the ranks of California politics. And I wrote all of this in my book. But there's something more important there, which is that when she was running for president, the reason that her presidential campaign didn't take off is because Tulsi Gabbard delivered an epic political knockout. Of all people, Tulsi Gabbard, military woman, at this point she's basically a Republican, but Tulsi Gabbard used her limited time on the debate stage to go after Kamala Harris. Why? Because of the fact that Kamala Harris was the chosen candidate of the Hillary Clinton State Department. I talk about this, right? Again, and it's all playing out. Hillary Clinton has endorsed her. Barack Obama refuses to. Let's flash back to the Barack Obama administration. Do you remember 2011, the Arab Spring? Do you remember when Hillary Clinton was running the U.S. State Department? Hillary Clinton was doing all kinds of things that Barack Obama did not approve of. Hillary Clinton overthrew the government of Honduras in 2009. Just a few months after Obama had been in office, Hillary Clinton overthrew the government of Honduras. And Barack Obama did not know about it. And so he was asked about how the military of Honduras overthrew the government. And he said, well, that's not legal. Well, he didn't know Hillary Clinton had arranged the whole thing. And that misspeech was a big problem. Well, it turned out Hillary Clinton had met with the military of Honduras. They decided that the elected president, Manuel Zelaya, was too sympathetic to Venezuela or whatever, and they overthrew the government. Barack Obama didn't know about it, and he was kind of taken aback. Oh, that's not legal. He didn't know that it was a U.S.-backed military coup to overthrow a socialist president. Then, you'll recall that in Iran, they reelected Ahmadinejad, the anti-imperialist hardliner president. And after Ahmadinejad was elected, there was protests among the young people in Iran that are against the government. They had protests. And those protests were supported by the American government. And Jared Andrew Cohen, formerly of Google Alphabet, working for the Hillary Clinton State Department, went to Twitter and told them to change their activities to make sure that Twitter could be used to coordinate the anti-Iran and anti-government protests in Iran. And he did this without asking Barack Obama's permission. And Barack Obama heard that people from the State Department had gone to Twitter and instructed them to manipulate Twitter in order to help overthrow the Iranian government and destabilize Iran. He was angry. And he wanted to fire Jared Andrew Cohen. This is according to New Yorker magazine. All of the citations are in my book. Read the reviews. They say my citations are perfect. It's all there. They wanted to fire Jared Andrew Cohen. Hillary Clinton stepped in and protected Jared Andrew Cohen. Hillary Clinton's State Department includes a lot of people who were employed by none other than the New America, which is a think tank in Washington, D.C., run by Anne Marie Slaughter. And Anne Marie Slaughter is very open about what she believes. Anne Marie Slaughter believes that there is a fight in the world today between populist leaders and the open international system. And she believes it is the duty of the United States to spread revolution and instability and chaos all over the world in order to topple populist governments. Samantha Power comes out of that school. Cass Sunstein comes out of that school. And the Hillary Clinton State Department was run by people who thought this. And Anne Marie Slaughter worked at the Hillary Clinton State Department, and they believed that it was the job of the United States to foment revolution all over the world to spread the open international system. This is what globalism is. Anti-populism, spreading an open international system all over the world. That's globalism. That's what the Hillary Clinton State Department believed. And Barack Obama did not want to bomb Libya in 2011. And we now have the memoir, the autobiography of Ben Rhodes, who worked in the White House, that explains how they convinced Barack Obama to bomb Libya. And in the autobiography, they talk about how they told Barack Obama that Gaddafi said when he went into Libya, when he went into Benghazi, he was going to go house to house. And they told him that meant Gaddafi was going to kill every person in Benghazi, which is not what Gaddafi meant. He said, we're going to find the terrorists. We're going to search house to house. They told Barack Obama, Gaddafi says that when he retakes Benghazi, he's going to go house to house, and you're going to be remembered as the president who didn't stop a genocide. And they worked on Barack Obama for days. You're going to be remembered as the guy who didn't stop a genocide. And so finally, Barack Obama gave in and he bombed Libya. And then he claimed that he stopped a genocide. It was a lie. He didn't stop a genocide, but he was convinced that. When Barack Obama was leaving office, he was asked the two greatest, his biggest regret as president and what he thought was the best moment of his presidency. And his biggest regret, he said, was when he bombed Libya. He said, going into Libya without a clear plan, that was my biggest regret as president. Well, we all know that's something that Hillary Clinton pressured him like crazy to do. Cass Sunstein, Samantha Power, Ben Rhodes, they all worked on him like crazy to get him to do that. And what did Barack Obama say that his best moment as president was? It was when he avoided bombing Syria. When he in the aftermath of Syria being accused of a chemical weapons attack, he got Syria to give up all of its chemical weapons rather than be bombed. And that was an instance where, the new Secretary of State, John Kerry, went against what Hillary Clinton wanted, and he didn't listen to Hillary Clinton. And it's very clear that, in his second term, when Barack Obama fired Hillary Clinton from the State Department and brought in John Kerry, U.S. foreign policy very dramatically shifted. The first term of Barack Obama was the Hillary Clinton foreign policy. It was spreading chaos and instability all over the world. The second term was about signing treaties. In the second term, Barack Obama went to Cuba and established diplomatic relations with Cuba. In the second term, Barack Obama signed the Iran nuclear deal. In the second term, Barack Obama, he was trying to be known as a president who repaired relations. He didn't want to be known as the president who spread instability. John Kerry and Barack and Hillary Clinton ran the U.S. State Department in completely opposite ways. John Kerry wanted to be remembered as a guy who made deals and reconciled with enemies. Hillary Clinton wanted to be known as the woman who spread revolution all over the world. Now, why does this matter? Because when Hillary Clinton decided that she couldn't run for president in 2020, there was a meeting in Long Island in the Hamptons. And David Geffen and all the Hillary Clinton supporters decided to put their money behind Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was the candidate of the Hillary Clinton State Department. And again, all documented in my book and confirmed now in that Hillary Clinton endorsed her and Barack Obama won't. I'm telling you. In addition to that, Hillary Clinton, I'm sorry, I forget what point I was making. In addition to that, why did Tulsi Gabbard use her limited time? Of all the candidates to go after, why did she go after Kamala Harris? I think I'm going to show it because it was one of the most epic political knockouts I have ever seen, right? It was really an epic political knockout, right? Yeah, it was absolutely epic. We're going to watch it right now because it was absolutely epic. But why? Why did Kamala Harris, why did Tulsi Gabbard use, of all the candidates she could have gone after, why? Why did this happen? Like, let's pull it up because it's just such an epic clip. I have never, in just a few moments, she just demolishes, she just tells the world everything that Kamala Harris, everything you need to know about Kamala Harris right there, right? And it was brilliant. And it was the end of Kamala Harris. This ended Kamala Harris's presidential campaign effectively in the year of 2020. It was over in minutes. Kamala Harris's presidential campaign never recovered from this. But there's a reason that this happened. I want you to understand this. So anyway, here we go. Here we go. Right? This is why the presidential campaign of Kamala Harris in 2020 came to a dramatic end.
The conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place. that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology. Our Democratic Party, unfortunately, is not the party that is of, by, and for the people.
Yeah, and why did that happen? Well, you'll remember that what defined Kamala Harris's, what defined Tulsi Gabbard's 2020 campaign was the fact that she was opposed to the U.S. regime change war in Syria. And that she was talking about how U.S. regime change wars, like in Iraq and elsewhere, had led to spreading terrorism around the world. Well, what was that about? Well, that was about the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is an active duty U.S. military person, right? She's Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard. And she's, even today, she's a member of the U.S. Armed Forces. She's active duty U.S. military. And the Pentagon spent 2011 to 2020 picking up all the pieces from what the Hillary Clinton State Department did around the world. The result of the Arab Spring and the way Hillary Clinton manipulated it and turned it into the violent overthrow and destabilization of Libya and into the civil war in Syria, that resulted in ISIS emerging as a terrorist group. That resulted in a refugee crisis, millions of people in the Middle East and North Africa fleeing to Europe. The Arab Spring made things in the Middle East region very bad. And the sections of the U.S. military that are focused specifically on fighting terrorism, they did not want another Arab Spring. And they were blown away by the fact that the U.S. government was basically arming groups like Al-Qaeda and the Al-Nusra Front in Syria because they thought they would hurt Assad. And they were saying, wait a second, we're supposed to be fighting Al-Qaeda. And then when ISIS emerged and started killing Americans and started killing people, they were like, this is a result of very, very bad policy. When the terrorists who were being backed by the United States to try and overthrow the Syrian government started massacring Christians in Syria and slaughtering them, this was a bit of a problem. And that Tulsi Gabbard represented a wing of the Pentagon, a wing of the deep state that said, we don't want another Arab Spring. We don't want another Arab Spring. We're not going to have Hillary Clinton and Anne-Marie Slaughter and Samantha Power. We're not going to have them running the government again, creating instability and chaos all over the region. We're not going to have it. There was a division in the ruling class. And you'll notice that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't the only figure within the military who was kind of sympathetic to Russia. There was Michael Flynn. You remember Michael Flynn? Michael Flynn, he was a general who, ended up becoming Trump's national security advisor and getting fired because he spoke to the Russian ambassador and that whole thing. But Michael Flynn, if you listened to what he said, he wasn't a communist. He wasn't an anti-imperialist. He just thought Russia would be great allies against terrorism because Russia has been fighting against Islamic terrorist groups for years, right? Al-Qaeda basically emerged to fight the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. Putin rose to power. It was prominent because he was fighting the Chechen separatists, right? I mean, they've been fighting Islamic terrorism for years. And before the Boston Marathon bombing, the Zarnev brothers, right? They were two Chechen guys, and they were on the internet talking about being terrorists and such. And the Russians called up the American government. And they said, watch out for these Zarnev brothers. These guys are connected to terrorism. And the American government didn't listen. And then they blew up the Boston Marathon and killed a bunch of innocent people. Right? The Russians can fight Islamic terrorists amazingly. They are the most skilled. They have been dealing with, there is no other non-Muslim country in the world that has more Muslims than Russia. And, Chechnya, there's no insurgency in Chechnya anymore. The Chechens, there's a lot of Muslims, and they're very religious. It's a very Muslim region, but the idea of, Chechens trying to violently break Chechnya away from Russia, not happening anymore because they dealt with it. They brought in economic investment. They provided people with jobs. They let the local Muslims set the rules the way they wanted to. Boom. Chechnya, in fact, Chechens are more supportive of Putin than some of the people in the cities are. Right? Putin gets a higher vote among the Muslims and the Chechens than he does among the Christians. Right? And Russia has been dealing with Islamist insurgencies, people that want to break parts of Russia away and turn them into Islamic, states, Islamic, Sharia law places. They've been dealing with that for years. They know exactly how to handle that. They're experts at handling that. They've been monitoring these people. They've been dealing with it. They know exactly how to handle these folks. And so there's a lot of people in the Pentagon that said, look, if we want to fight Al-Qaeda, we want to make sure we don't have more 9/11s. Let's get along with those Russians because they know how to deal with them. And that's Tulsi Gabbard. And that's why Tulsi Gabbard is a huge supporter of Israel. She doesn't like Muslims. She is very close to Modi in India. She's not a communist. She's not an anti-imperialist. She just, she wants to fight Islamic terrorism. She wants to fight ISIS. She wants to fight Al-Qaeda. And she doesn't want to fight Bashar Assad, the secular Arab nationalist. And she doesn't want to fight against Russia. She wants to fight Islamic terrorists. She wants to fight Al-Qaeda. And she's smart enough to realize that the Hillary Clinton State Department had a policy of creating terrorism. And the result of the U.S. overthrow of the Libyan government and the result of the U.S. overthrow or attempt to overthrow the Syrian government and destabilizing was spreading terrorism everywhere. And the war on terror that the U.S. government has waged has done the exact opposite. Iraq didn't have any terrorists, right? You had Saddam Hussein, secular Arab nationalist leader. Well, they overthrew him, and now Iraq is full of Al-Qaeda terrorist groups fighting each other, right? Libya, weren't any terrorists. Gaddafi, he was all about fighting terrorism. He was a secular leader. You had Christians in the government. You had women in the government, whatever. But now Libya has been overthrown. Now there's all kinds of terrorists all over Libya, right? The war on terror that the U.S. government has waged has really been the United States acting as Al-Qaeda's air force. Wherever there's a government in the Middle East that fights Al-Qaeda, America goes in and bombs the shit out of them so that ISIS and Al-Qaeda can set up shop, right? And the Arab Spring 2011, where the U.S. mainstream media was teaming up with, Al Jazeera and the Muslim Brotherhood and forces like that to, foment protest and rebellion throughout the Middle East. That resulted in terrorist groups getting a lot stronger. That resulted in a lot of very, very bad things. And there were many people within the military and all that who said, we don't want that anymore. But they know that Kamala Harris, just like Hillary Clinton, is a product of the New America, of Anne-Marie Slaughter. They want global revolution in order to spread their open international system. They don't care who has to die. It doesn't matter that Libya used to be the most prosperous country in Africa, and now it's in instability and chaos, and people are drowning in the Mediterranean trying to get out. Doesn't matter. What matters is Gaddafi got punished. Gaddafi had to pay. Right? It doesn't matter that, Syria, millions of people fled the country, became refugees. What matters is that Assad was a dictator and he had to go and we had to make people pay. It is just like the truant parents. It's not about those kids. It's about making those parents pay. Right? This is what I want you to understand. Kamala Harris thinks that she is a victim. She thinks that she is a victim. That little girl was her. So no matter what she does, no matter who goes to prison for life, no matter who gets bombed and killed, it's all okay because that little girl was her. She's a victim. Donald Harris was a bad father, according to her, or whatever, according to her mom. We don't know all the details. Something bad happened to her when she was in high school in Quebec, but that little girl was her. Her mother is a saint who can do no wrong, and her father is a awful person who she's estranged from and she hates him, and that little girl was her and she's a victim. And now all the details have come out. All the details have come out about what an incompetent vice president she is. Again, she can do no wrong. She subjects her staff to endless verbal abuse. If you make a mistake in her office, she sits you down in front of everybody and just rips your head off, degrades you. Right? I mean, and nothing is ever her fault. She won't be prepped for interviews because she's the great Kamala. Why does she need to be prepped? And so her interviews go very badly, right? We've seen how badly her interviews go, but is that ever her fault? No, she can't keep staff, right? It's the dream of so many people to work in her administration, to work for the vice president, but she can't keep them because she destroys them. She tears people down. She's vicious. She is a vicious, cruel, sadistic person because she's only thinking about herself. Narcissism, right? It comes from a Greek myth of a man named Narcissus who saw his reflection in a pool. And he was just so transfixed by his own reflection, he stopped eating and all of that. That's Kamala. Kamala is constantly thinking about herself and how she's a victim and how she needs to let her rage out. She needs to punish people. She needs to terrorize people. She needs revenge. That is what she is thinking about 24 hours a day. She's thinking about how that little girl was her and the world didn't understand and she was a victim of racism and she was mistreated badly and she had to grow up with a single mom and blah, 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 blah. And this is the sad thing. Right? Because, I mean, look, if Kamala just felt this way, I wouldn't care, right? I mean, she has a right to feel however she wants, right? I mean, it's not my business. But there are people around her who know how to push her buttons. And they know how to manipulate her and push her to do very bad things. And Tulsi Gabbard knows this, and people in the Pentagon know this. And they're worried. They don't want to have to pick up the pieces from Arab Spring 2.0. And that's what they don't want in a president. They don't want President Kamala Harris because they don't want to be picking up the pieces from Arab Spring 2.0. Right? You know, they don't want that. And Donald Trump, his whole presidency, America first, stop spreading instability around the world, stop creating global refugee crisis, jobs for America. Worry about the American working people. Kamala Harris isn't loyal to America. She's loyal to Revolution Incorporated, the Rockefeller think tanks. Look at, I told you all last night about New America. This is the think tank that is responsible for the Hillary Clinton State Department. It's run by Anne Marie Slaughter. You look at New America, right? The New America organization, New America Foundation. Look at the New America Foundation and look at who is funding them. Look at who their financial backers are, right? And you look at, this is the people that created Kamala Harris, that made her famous, that picked her after they decided they couldn't do Hillary Clinton again. Look at assets and funding of the New American organization. It's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It is Bloomberg Philanthropies. It's the Ford Foundation, and it is the Rockefeller Foundation. The ultra-rich, they are not loyal to this country. They are loyal to imperialism, a global international system that is grinding people into poverty. That is what they are loyal to. And Anne Marie Slaughter, go and read her essay, The Power of Populism, where she says it is the job of the American government to spread revolution and instability all over the world. That's Kamala Harris, right? She wants to take the presidency, not to be president of America, but to be president of Color Revolution Incorporated. She wants every country in the world to be gripped by instability and rioting and chaos and bloodlust. She wants to overthrow every independent government. She wants to overthrow every country where the people are independent, where they're rising up and developing. She is an advocate for the New America Foundation, what they believe. I mean, Anne Marie Slaughter, all of them, they were going to back Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton was just a no-go, and so they gave their backing to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is the candidate of the color revolution regime change apparatus, and the world is still reeling for what they did when they ran Hillary Clinton's State Department. When Samantha Power was in the White House advising Barack Obama, when Anne Marie Slaughter and Hillary Clinton were running the State Department, it was a nightmare. Libya, the most prosperous country in Africa, was reduced to chaos and instability. Syria was brought into a civil war. Egypt had a Muslim Brotherhood president who was using the Egyptian government to spread chaos all throughout the region and inspire uprisings against various governments. It was a nightmare what Hillary Clinton did. And Barack Obama fired her and brought in John Kerry because he was so horrified by what happened. And Barack Obama didn't even know about it. She overthrew the Guatemalan government without telling him. And Barack Obama said his greatest regret was how they tricked him into going into Libya. And he said his greatest moment was when he told them he didn't listen to them and he didn't bomb Syria in 2013. I'm telling you, this is who Kamala Harris represents. Now, let's be clear. It is not guaranteed she will be the Democratic Party nominee. It's not guaranteed. I mean, it looks pretty good for her right now, but it is at the Democrat National Convention they pick the nominee. And there are a number of forces that don't want her, including Barack Obama, including Michelle Obama. Right? They know what she's about. They don't want her. Biden did not want to name her as a VP, but that's a whole nother story. It's not a guarantee that we're going to get crazy Kamala, psycho Kamala. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. Right? It's very possible they could pick somebody else to be the presidential candidate. But at this moment, the New America Institute, Bill Gates, the Rockefellers, they are going all in. This is the only chance they'll ever have to get her into the White House. I got to tell you something. And I mean, this is the thing. I'm not terribly worried about her becoming president, because even if she gets the Democratic nomination, she'll lose. She'll lose. The American people already hate her. The American people already don't like her. She'll lose. She will lose. Trump is going to win. Trump is so far ahead at this point. If it's a fair election, if it's not a rigged election, she'll win. She will win. But big but, who knows how fair this election could be? Look, I mean, I've seen some stuff. I mean, I don't want to say too much more, but I think you all know that there were a lot of people that were not convinced that the election results in 2020 were legitimate. And we don't have a pandemic this time. It's a little bit different, but I mean, let's not let this happen. That's what I'm telling you. Let's not let this happen. You know, I'm kind of liking some things about Trump. There are some things about Trump I don't like. I worry that Trump will be worse in his second term than he was in his first term. You know, I think what Trump did in Iran, murdering Qasem Soleimani, ripping up the Iran nuclear deal, horrible. Moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, horrible. A lot of Trump's statements about Muslims are very offensive. I have great admiration for Muslims. I've spent time in Iran. A lot of things Trump says about immigrants, horrible, awful. You know, I mean, and the way Trump, you know, became the Blue Lives Matter candidate and stuff, I don't like that. Right. And that was, you know, police brutality is a real thing that needs to be addressed. That doesn't mean we demonize and hate every individual cop. But the idea that there's not a real issue with police brutality, the idea that George Floyd deserved to die or some shit like that. No. I mean, there's a lot about Trump I don't like. But I'll tell you, I would vote for, if it's Kamala Harris or a yellow dog, I would vote for the yellow dog. If it was Kamala Harris and and a Chihuahua, I would vote for the Chihuahua. If it was Kamala Harris and a flamenco, I would vote for the flamenco. I'm telling you, Kamala Harris, her presidency would be a presidency intended to foment another Arab Spring. There would be another wave of instability and chaos all over the world. Social media would amp up, and there would be protests and riots and rebellions all over the world. And that would probably mean World War III. Right? And I mean, that would probably mean World War III at this point. So I just, I'm hoping that Kamala Harris doesn't get the nomination. And I'm hoping that if she does get the nomination, that she loses. And I'm hoping that somebody reads this book, that I wrote. My book got great reviews. It was reviewed in Morning Star. It was, this book that I wrote, Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an essay in 3 parts. If I could write it again, I would write it in a way that was not as aimed at communists. That's how I would do it again. This book was largely aimed at more of a leftist, communist, anti-imperialist audience. If I could write it again, I would write it in a more mass way where people who weren't already on board could learn more from it. But this is a great piece that I wrote. It is an overall portrait of Kamala Harris and who is backing her and who supports her, how she got to be VP, etc. I think it's a great piece of work that I did. Of all the things I've written, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's a psychological profile. It's an examination of division in the ruling class. It's an understanding of U.S. politics and the divisions in the ruling class, the Yankee and Cowboy War, etc. It's a pretty good book that I wrote. So my suggestion is that if you like it, you go buy it. If you want to record it as an audiobook, that'd be great. We had an audiobook. I think, do we still have an audiobook of it? I think we might still have the audiobook. I don't think I took it down. The person who recorded it is not someone I'm working with anymore, but I think I still might have the audiobook. Let me see if the audiobook is still there. Let me see, because I gave a series of lectures on it. I spoke to different places about it. But let me see if the audiobook is still up. I may have privated it, but I might be able to unprivate it or something. I mean, the audiobook is still, let me see if the audiobook, let me just find the audiobook version of it. My goodness, I typed Caleb Mop and Kamala Harris into YouTube and it comes up with a bunch of stuff. I mean, YouTube's search mechanism is broken. It is so determined to not show you anything that's like anti-establishment. I have to go into my own profile, Harris, future. Is it still up? Kamala Harris in the future? Yeah, no, it's there. Okay. All right. We still have the audiobook. I haven't taken it down. Okay. The person who recorded it is not somebody I'm currently working with any longer, but that's okay. So, all right. Okay. So I will just link you the audiobook. You can listen to the book, right? I've been talking about Kamala Harris for years. I have been talking about Kamala Harris for years. I have been talking about her, right? And here's the audiobook, right? You can listen to it. Audiobook. You can listen to Kamala Harris and the Future of America, an essay in 3 parts. You can listen to my essay. You can listen to my piece. I mean, I've been talking about her for years. And, I reached out to some shows that I've been on before, some big internet shows. We'll see if they have me on. They should. I mean, there's nobody who comes anywhere close to me on this issue, right? I know Kamala Harris. I wrote the book. Folks, I have been following Kamala Harris. I wrote the book. There's no one who comes anywhere near me on this issue. So, any of these shows that, kind of agree with the anti-imperialist perspective and don't have me on, that's their mistake and that's their loss. And, I can't control that, whatever. I I am at the point where I'm trying not to care about social media because there's just so much nonsense happening right now. You know, and there's people that are desperate to draw me into the nonsense, and I don't appreciate that. There's a lot of utter silliness going on, and I don't appreciate it. But you know, whatever. I don't care, right? I am consolidating our community. That's what I am doing. I am consolidating our community, and I know that the truth is on the right side, and I know that we've got a group of people who are very dedicated to this project, and that's where I'm at. So, you know, I've got my book on Kamala Harris, great reviews, and if these shows are smart, they'll have me on, and if they're not, you know, I know I don't need social media to grow CPI. No, we don't. We don't need social media to grow CPI. We're going to recruit in real life, and we're going to recruit people who would never go looking for this. No, we do not need social media to grow CPI, my friend. You are dead wrong when you say that. We do not need social media. Social media is tapped out, my friend, and that's a whole nother conversation that I've had on this stream many times. Social media is rigged. Social media is tapped out, and, you know, and literally everything I do, I can guarantee you they're watching this right now. And certain people who shall not be named in a few days are going to just suddenly discover everything I've been saying about Kamala Harris for the last 4 years and pretend they thought of it by themselves. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that. If you know who I'm talking about, I'm not even going to name them. I can guarantee you that within the next week, especially if it looks like Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate, certain people will suddenly discover what I've been talking about the last 4 years. And they'll just, you know, have discovered it all on their own. And they'll still send all their bots and trolls to harass me, and they'll still exclude me from everything they do. But they'll have just discovered everything I've been saying for the past 4 years. And if you show up in their chat and say, hey, didn't Caleb say this? They'll block you and they'll lock you out. You know, so, you know, there's nothing we can do about that. Social media is rigged. Social media is sad. And we're pivoting CPI away from social media. The only reason I'm still on here is to connect with all of you. It is about the people that are already here and connecting with them. Social media is a joke. It's a joke. And, I just, you know, we've got it. We can do better than this. You know, we can do better than this. And at the end, well, anyway, I've spent too much time on this already. I've said this so many times on here, and this is like the toxicity. The fact that I'm even saying that is part of the problem. We need to just not say that. I'm on here to talk to the people that are listening right now. If you're listening to this, I like you. Keep listening and join CPI and start making morning messages and listening to morning messages. Come to our Zoom calls, get involved in our in real life activities. That's why this channel exists. It's so I can stay connected to you, and it's so I can try to bring you in to our real community that's doing real organizing in real life. And the social media stuff is fake, it's real, and it's bullshit. So there we go. But regardless, I think the American people don't want Kamala Harris. Now, we're doing, some exciting stuff is happening. I don't want to say too much about it. We're having a New York City meetup for CPI. So if you're part of CPI, and you'd like to come to the meetup, we can't disclose and announce everything because of security. But if you're a CPI person, or if you're interested in CPI and you're in the New York City area, send me an email, calebmaupin@gmail.com. I'll try to connect you. I'll see if we can connect you and bring you to the meetup. But yeah, we got some good stuff going on. I don't think Kamala Harris is going to win. I'll just tell you right now, the American people are not going to vote for her. Trump is on fire. The American people cannot stand Kamala Harris. She's less popular than Biden is. And I mean, I don't know if you saw, but this was Tulsi Gabbard. I'll show you Tulsi Gabbard's response to Kamala Harris, to Biden dropping out and endorsing Kamala Harris. Again, confirming everything that I said, right? Why am I always right? Like, this is crazy. Why am I always right about this? It's the whole division in the ruling class, Yankee and cowboy war, all the things that I'm talking about. I talk about these things, and yeah, I'm more right than I thought I would be. And, Kamala Harris is a very, very unhealthy person. And what does that say? In intelligence lingo, this is very interesting. At this point, the government is being run by the intelligence agencies. right? It's the CIA, the FBI, the intelligence apparatus. They're the ones running the government. And those folks, in intelligence terms, this is very interesting. What makes you an asset of the CIA? Well, this is a very good question. In intelligence terms, what would make the CIA consider you to be an asset? Is it if you work for them? No. Is it if they can tell you what to do? No. Is it if they're paying you? No. What makes you an asset in intelligence terms is if your behavior can be predicted. That is what makes you an asset. The goal of intelligence agencies is to know you well enough they can predict your behavior, so when any situation happens, they know what to expect from you. And once they can predict your behavior effectively enough, they consider you to be an asset. And clear-headed, intelligent, rational people are not assets. Right? If you're clear-headed, if you know what you're doing, you'll look at any given situation, you'll judge the pluses and the minuses, and you won't be a good asset. But mentally ill people, people with lots of trauma, people with lots of triggers and emotional buttons to push, they are much easier to be assets because they know certain phrases they can say to them, certain topics to bring up, certain memories to invoke, and they can set the person off. Right? And so I'm at the point where it looks to me very much like they go out of their way to find crazy and unstable people, and they elevate them to positions of power in the government because they know they can push their buttons. The more unstable a person is, the more easily triggered the person is, the more trauma a person has. They know there are certain phrases they can use. Look, you know people like this, right? We all do now. Certain people that are just so traumatized, just so they've relived certain experiences and they're angry about certain things. If you just say certain phrases around them, boom, you can get them in the mood that you want and to do what you want. That's what they're looking for in people in government now. This isn't insane. Why would you want people like that? But that's who they look for. And it is not, and I talk about this in the book, right? In the book, I talk about this very issue. And I talk about it is not a coincidence that Barack Obama and Bill Clinton have a very, very similar life story. That they didn't know their fathers. Their mothers married abusive men. They witnessed their mothers being abused by those abusive men. Those abusive men left. They stayed with their mother. And they were both very, very charismatic, very good speakers, because that came from being the little boy whose job was to take care of the mother, to cheer up the mother, to be there for the mother, right? And that was Bill Clinton. Young Bill Clinton learned at a young age that he was a good speaker, a good performer, because he'd been taking care of his mom and cheering up his mom. Young Barack Obama, who stayed with his mother, whose mother married Barry Soetoro or Lolo Soetoro, the Indonesian general, and then all that. Yeah, and they went to Harvard and they went to the Ivy League schools and they became politicians. And their mothers were always pushing them to achieve. Their mothers were obsessed with seeing their boy become something special. They didn't have fathers. They didn't have fathers, but they had mothers who they took care of and felt sorry for and saw being abused and couldn't do anything about it. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama had roughly the same damage that they carried around with them. And it resulted in very, very similar character traits. They both became obsessively high achieving. They both became very good speakers. They both had this, desire to take care of their mothers. Not surprising. And they both became president of the United States. They both went to Ivy League schools where their personalities were profiled, and then they both became president of the United States. And Donald Trump and George W. Bush also had very, very similar stories. Right? Both of them had very high achieving fathers, and they were the screw up son of the high achieving father. They were the screw up son, right? Donald Trump had brothers who the dad liked a lot more, but Donald was the screw up, and Donald got sent to boarding school, and Donald was a party boy, and he got venereal disease, and he was using drugs, and he was a young party boy, and the whole family thought he was a screw up. And as he became more of an adult, he was desperate to prove he wasn't the screw up, and he was desperate, for the father to not see him that way. He was desperate for the family not to see him as the fail son, as the screw up, and so he became obsessed with getting ahead. And the same for George W. Bush. George W. Bush's father, George Herbert Walker Bush, CIA director, and everyone thought Jeb Bush, that guy was going places. Neil Bush, that guy was going places. But W, everyone thought W got arrested for being drunk at a football game. W got horrible grades in school. W started a baseball team and it went under. Everyone thought W was a screw up. And so W was desperate to prove he wasn't a screw up. And he went into politics with this desperation. And he found Karl Rove. And Karl Rove was a guy who knew how to fight dirty and could get W the approval, right? No one thought W was going to be the success. No one thought W would be president of the United States. But that's the point. W's father was this high achieving person, and W's brothers were all doing okay, but W was the screw up. And so W had something to prove. And the same for Trump. Right? Trump, again, high achieving father. He's the screw up son. He's got something to prove. He's desperate to get ahead, desperate to see his name in media. He becomes this flashy billionaire in media. Same story. Same type of damage. Right? And, you probably, I didn't go to Ivy League schools. I don't know wealthy people, but among wealthy people who go to Ivy League schools, these kinds of stories are very similar. Right? Most people don't go into politics. And this is, let me just throw this out there, right? Let's just talk about narcissism. I don't hold it against Kamala Harris that she's a narcissist. I really don't, right? I think to be in politics at all, you have to be a narcissist. You have to. Nobody would put up with the disgusting aspects of American politics, the viciousness, the lying, the corruption. No one would put themselves in the line of fire that way if they were not a narcissist on some level. Right? To go into American politics, to run for office in a major party, to hold public office in America, you have to be a narcissist, because why else would you put yourself through that? You want to make money, go into real estate. You want to make money, go into tech, but nobody, unless you're a narcissist, you want to be known as a hero. You want to be a celebrity hero, whatever. If you have this narcissistic desire to see your face on TV, why else would you go into politics? So I think I would be surprised if there's anybody on Capitol Hill who's not a narcissist. Okay. I would be surprised if we've had a president in the last 50 years who wasn't a narcissist. I can't speak to all of, I can't speak to all of, I can't speak to all of oh God, between all the messages I'm getting. So, all right. My God, this is one of those nights, right? Look, folks, things happen all at once, and it's really interesting when things happen all at once. But I'm getting all at once. I'm getting all kinds of different things are happening. And there's stuff that's happening. It's got nothing to do with me. And I want nothing to do with it. Right. I've had it. I have absolutely had it with certain people. And it's like, you know, you want to draw me into your drama now? No. I was involved with your drama. I spent a year being involved with your drama. I really don't care. You know what I mean? I really don't care. So please don't try to draw me into your drama. Please don't. You know, and I think there might be a super chat about something, and I'm just that's my answer. I will answer it. I will say, don't draw me into this drama. Right. But anyhow, I don't hold it against Kamala that she's a narcissist. I hold it against her that her narcissism drives her to hurt other people. I honestly think Donald Trump's narcissism might protect us. Donald Trump, you know, he wants to be known as a man who made peace in the world. He wants to be known as, you know, he wants his name, his face on monuments. He wants to be famous. He doesn't want to be the guy who goes down in history as making war. I mean, and he did a lot of bad things as president, but I think that Donald Trump's narcissism might drive him to be a better president. Whereas Kamala Harris's narcissism manifests itself in a desire to harm other people. So there's that. And I will say, and I'll also say this, right? That you know, narcissism is necessary in some places, right? Narcissism is confidence. A lot of people don't have confidence, right? Look, I am a lot of things, and I'm not here to spill my guts to you and tell you a lot of things, but do you think I would be able to come out on here and talk to you guys every night with what has been put out there about me and all the vicious attacks that have been put out there against me? There wasn't a little bit of narcissism somewhere inside of me, and I'm not ashamed of that at all, right? I am glad that I have the confidence to come out here and be with you guys every night and tell you guys what you need to hear and hold this community together and not give up and not surrender. And I admit that a streak of narcissism probably makes that happen. I try to have empathy, and I work very, very hard to listen to other people, to think about other people's concerns. I don't want to be a selfish person, a person who's indifferent to the suffering of others. I don't want to be that. But I'm thankful that I have enough narcissism to keep going. And that this is called, there's what you might call healthy narcissism, right? Confidence, right? The ability to keep going in the face of attacks. That requires an element of narcissism. And honestly, I see a lot of people who could use a good dose of narcissism. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people in my life right now that I look at them and I say, I want to slap some narcissism into you. It doesn't work that way. You can't slap narcissism into people, right? It kind of has the opposite effect. So I'm joking when I say I want to slap some narcissism into you, because you can't do that. But it's true. And that our culture, we very much have this idea that if somebody is a narcissist, if somebody harms other people, if someone's like Kamala Harris, that means that no one has been mean to them enough. And that's not true at all. Right? Generally, when people are chronic narcissists like Kamala Harris, there's a huge amount of pain underneath their narcissism. It is a defense mechanism. It is a self-protection mechanism. They're trying to protect themselves from a lot of pain, a lot of insecurity, etc. They need that narcissism to keep them going, right? And, you know, and so we can recognize that. And, you know, I do feel sorry for Kamala Harris. I do. Right. You know, I do. I feel sorry for Kamala Harris. I think that she has had a rough time. And what's worse is that there are people around her who don't want her to be happier. There are people around her who see her damage and see her narcissism and see her rage and her indifference to other people's suffering and her insecurity and her desire to harm other people as something they can use to start World War III for their own ends. And that's what makes her so dangerous, right? And, you know, if Kamala Harris was not surrounded by people like the New America Institute, like Anne Marie Slaughter, like Samantha Power, who know how to manipulate her, you know, it might be better. But there you go. But anyway, just to confirm what I've already told you, this was Tulsi Gabbard's response to Kamala Harris, to Biden dropping out and endorsing Kamala Harris.
Everybody, I just got here to Rome, where I'm going to be joining a dialogue and forum on peace, security, and prosperity for the Western Hemisphere in Europe. I just saw the news flash like everybody else. President Biden's no longer running for re-election, and he's endorsed Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee for president and commander-in-chief. I'm going to sound the same warning now that I have been for years, going all the way back to 2020 when both Kamala and I were running for president on the Democratic ticket. She is unfit and unqualified to be our president and commander-in-chief and would be incredibly dangerous in that position. The prospect of Kamala Harris making decisions about war and peace and where to send my brothers and sisters in uniform into harm's way is not only terrifying to us, it should be terrifying to every American, knowing that we would all pay the price for her dangerous actions and dangerous decisions. Everything you've heard me say about Hillary Clinton, the queen of warmongers, can also be said of Kamala Harris. There should be no question in your mind that if Kamala is allowed to be our president and commander-in-chief, she'll be the maidservant of this queen of warmongers, the head of this elitist cabal of warmongers that has gotten us into this place. They're the ones who've been calling the shots behind Joe Biden's presidency. They would continue to call the shots if Kamala Harris is president. And where have they led us? To the brink of war with multiple countries in all parts of the world, and closer to the brink of nuclear war and Armageddon now than ever before. The choice for us is very clear. If we cherish peace and freedom, and if we love our country, we must vote against Kamala Harris in this election on November 5th and vote for Donald Trump.
Yep. Like, that video is basically a summary of this book that I wrote. So, you know, I wrote the book on Kamala Harris. I've been telling you about her for 4 years. I'm miles and miles ahead of everybody else on this. So, you know, hey, you know, have your favorite podcaster have me on to talk about it. What I wrote was highly relevant. And on that note, folks, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? We'll pull up Phil's petition. We'll pull up the other important things on here. Names and locations. Who's with us? Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Bob in Troy, New York. Mark in Utica, New York. Miguel, Vancouver. Valen from Seneca. Season Noob from China. Phoenix, Arizona. Harry in Florida, JT24 in Mississippi, Sydney in Australia, Four Oaks, North Carolina, Ellie in Chicago, Jenny in Cincinnati, Denver, Colorado, Kieran, Tyler in Missouri, Justin Russell in Toronto, Kieran from Old Town, Mohsen from Iran, San Diego, Papa, Flagstaff, Arizona, Grange over Sands, John Deere Tractorland. Is that an amusement park where you ride tractors instead of roller coasters? Just kidding, Gavin. All right. Johnny in Benson, North Carolina. John McCarthy in Chicago. Mariah in North Carolina. Thomas in Malaysia. Sanford in North Carolina. Alex in Brazil. Anthony in Detroit. Chicago. Out of the movement to the masses. Damn right. Al in Sydney, Australia. Sherry in Cape, New Jersey. Jamie in Boise, Idaho. Alan Rice in South Korea. Lee Hammock is a narcissist. Brooklyn is in the house. Very good. Carter in Minnesota. Names and locations. Patrick McCartney, Carolyn and Dario in Brooklyn. Welcome, Carolyn and Dario. And I'll be reaching out to you about the meetup coming up. So look out for my phone call or email. Caleb in NYC, but you're not me. You must be another Caleb in NYC. Putin in Russia. It also goes by Justin Russell. Mata in Paraguay. Edward in Battleboro, Vermont. I almost said Virginia, but it's Vermont. Moonlight Beach, California. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad that you all are here. I'm glad that you all are here. Now, hold on. All right. So first of all, great petition to sign. My friend Phil, who's a member of CPI, he's a member here in New York, good friend of mine. Met him at church, and Phil has really just taken on this mission of creating a petition to take to the United Nations to end all sanctions on any country that would affect people's access to medical care. So if you haven't signed the petition, go ahead and sign it. There's the link on the CPI website to the petition. It's a really easy petition to sign, change.org. And kudos to Phil for how he has taken it on. Phil recorded a morning message about it, so you'll be seeing that on the morning messages. If you are wanting to start your day with hope and optimism, I recommend that you go to the CPI YouTube channel and watch our morning messages. We have one every morning. And it's a great thing that we do. We do these morning messages. Start your day with revolutionary hope and optimism. It's a great way to start your day. It's on the Center for Political Innovation YouTube channel. Join the Center for Political Innovation. I'm serious, right? We want to get out of the movement to the masses. We want to, bring socialism to the United States. That's what we want to do. And we want to actually build a movement that can make it happen. And we're having a great conversation. We just had a great meeting to discuss what we call ourselves. Because at this point, there's all kinds of people in America who call themselves communists who have nothing to do with us. And, I tell people the woke people took all the bad in communism and we took all the good. And there's two different movements that have roots in communism. One is about the aesthetic and the vengeance and the Kamala Harris stuff. And that's wokeism, and we want nothing to do with it. And one is about the economics and the historical progress, etc. And that's what we're all about, right? And so we're having a great conversation about how do we handle the nuance of going to people in a way where we're not lying to them, right? This is a whole thing for years. My understanding of people would always say to us, why don't you give communism a new name? And so I had this whole thing. I think Bob Avakian did it better than I did, but he said, imagine that we called it shabibbity bobbity boobity boop, right? And, if someone walked up to us and, we handed them a leaflet and they'd say, what do you believe in? We'd say, we believe in shabibbity bobbity boobity boop. And they'd say, wait a second, that sounds an awful lot like communism. And they'd say, no, it's not communism. It's shabibbity bobbity boobity boop. And we would eventually look like fools because somebody would Google it and they'd realize that we're communists, and then we'd look like liars. Well, nowadays it's more complicated than that because there are people walking around calling themselves communists who sound different than we do, sound completely opposite. And our 4-point plan on our website, the Center for Political Innovation, has a 4-point plan of what we believe in. And our 4-point plan, many Americans agree with it. The overwhelming majority of Americans, I think, would believe in enacting our 4-point economic plan. Public control of our natural resources, public control of our banking system, an economic bill of rights, a mass mobilization to rebuild the country. But so-called communists always hate our program, right? The CPUSA kind of liked it, but they said, there wasn't enough about race and white supremacy and all that in there. And most of them hate it because it doesn't include violent revolution, right? It's reformist. It doesn't include violently overthrowing the government and getting their vengeance and rage and violent aesthetic out, right? It's a problem, right? It's a problem. We have an economic program that we have a program people agree with until you say communist. And people think communism is woke. And we're not woke. And the woke people don't like our program. And we do. And yeah, if you go outside the United States to any country in the third world, people would look at our 4-point plan and say, that's a communist program. But here in America, it used to be nobody was a communist. And so we didn't have a problem. We could tell people what we were. But now there are a group of people who hate all the communist governments, but speak in the name of communism. And we're not them. So we're having a great conversation. So many members spoke up. 30 people were on the Zoom that we did yesterday. 30 people. We had 27 the week before that, 25 the week before that. Our membership is engaged. A lot of things are happening. There's a lot of drama going on behind closed doors, and I want nothing to do with it. I'm tired of it, right? I am disappointed by certain people, but I've been disappointed by these people for years. I'm more disappointed by the people who chase after the people I'm disappointed by, because you'll gain nothing from that. And that chasing after social media influencers is not organizing. I am very pumped about my turn away from social media. I don't say hit the like or whatever. I don't say that no more because I'm done with it. I'm done with it. And I'm done with how rigged social media is. I'm done with how competitive social media is. I want to build a real group that'll recruit real, ordinary Americans who would never go looking for this into a movement to save our country from the nightmare of the low-wage police state in World War III. That's what I want to do. And in order to do that, CPI has to change. And we have changed, and it's not been perfect. There's been some turbulence and drama, but the members love it. The members are more engaged now than they've been in a year. There's more people piling into our calls, and CPI is on fire. If you really want what we're talking about on these streams to happen, join the Center for Political Innovation. And if you want to watch, if you want to be entertained, if you want something to look at on your phone, by all means, there's better people who can do it than me. Don't watch me, right? If all this is to you is internet entertainment, I would say don't watch me. There's certain other people that can put on a way better show than I can, that say outrageous things, that are funnier than I am, that debate and own people in ways that I don't, that go out of their way to fight with people because it's entertaining. There's all kinds of people who can do a better internet freak show than I can. You know what I'm saying? So if that's what you're looking for, if this is all you want, an internet freak show, an internet circus to watch, I'm probably not the best one to go to. I actually believe in this. I actually take this seriously. I actually believe in this. I actually take this seriously. I've actually risked my life trying to deliver medical aid to Iran. I've actually been canceled a million times and kept going. I actually, moved to New York City from Ohio. I've actually, worked for Ramsey Clark. I've actually been in communist groups my entire adult life. I actually believe in this. And I actually have come to understand that you can't build God's kingdom on earth without God. And I rediscovered my Christian faith. I've actually been to communist countries, and I've seen why they have market sectors, and I've seen how 21st century socialism works. I've done some stuff, and I've been some places, and I actually believe in this. And because I actually believe in this, I actually try to build relationships with people to get actual shit done in the real world, and, some people just get on the internet and put on a show and are very competitive because, they want it to all be about them. I actually believe in this. I actually build community. I mean, my community, our community has really meant the world to a lot of people who've been part of it. And if you actually believe in this, you should join the Center for Political Innovation. And we allow dual membership because we're not competing. You can be a member of any party you want and be in the Center for Political Innovation. You could be a member of any communist group you want and be in the Center for Political Innovation. You can have any religion that you want. You can be a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, an atheist, a Hindu, a Wiccan. You can be whatever you want and be in the Center for Political Innovation. Center for Political Innovation is an education project. We're trying to get stuff done. We got a job to do, and we're trying to do it. And if you want to help us do the job, come on board. If you don't want to help us do the job, it's not the right thing for you. But that's what we are. We are an organization that is about getting real shit done. And, that's what we are. And if you want to get real shit done, come on board. And if you don't want to get real shit done, you don't have to. No one's making you. But we're not competitive. We're not trying to tear people down and make a show. We're trying to get real shit done. So apparently, this is what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, I don't care. I am done with those people. I am done with those people. All right. That was the first one right there. Right. And that's actually what I'm talking about. These people are fools. They are complete and utter fools. And we have bent over backwards to try and be nice to those people, even after they've dissed us in a million ways to Sunday. They've said unforgivable things about me personally, about our organization. And, it's one thing if, somebody said something nasty and then we tried to reconcile, right? That's fine. And we did that, right? After the awful things were said, we tried to reconcile. And 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 honestly, we tried we spent the entire year of 2023 trying to reconcile with those fools. And honestly, it was a waste of our time. And it was humiliating and it was embarrassing. We're not going to war with these people, right? We're not trying to drive them away, but we are not going to degrade ourselves and humiliate ourselves by trying to get the approval of these people anymore, right? These people, they have decided they want to be our enemies. Okay, that is what they have decided. And I'm not going to repeat all the nasty things that they have said about me. I am not going to repeat all the nasty things they've said about our organization and our community, but they are not a small number of things. And our immediate reaction was to try and reconcile and to try and reconcile and to try and reconcile. People were sent videos ahead of time and people were given all kinds of opportunities, and they still spit in our face, and they have gone out of their way to diss us, etc. And if we continue to try and chase after these people, we have no self-respect, and we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it, right? We're not going to do it. And you know what? All these people, if they really want to reconcile, all they have to do, inbox me, text me, email me. They all know how to reach me. And they're not going to do that because they're fucking competitors. They're in it for themselves, right? They're trying to build internet fandoms, right? And so we're not going to humiliate ourselves and degrade ourselves by trying to get these people's approval any longer, right? And it's just, that's it, right? And, yes, I know what you're talking about. And these people are fools, all of them. They're all fools. They are fools. Gabby knows. And these people are fools. They are complete and utter fools. Begging social media influencers to boost you is not organizing. Organizing means getting to the masses, right? And so I don't give a shit about what some internet grifters do, right? And, I really don't care. I really don't care. And it's sad. And, they can go to hell for all I care about. Seriously, I am really done with these people. And, I'm not worried about the people in question. I'm worried about the people who continue to just be convinced. First of all, I really am tired of it. You don't know how many people have come to me. Oh, I'm going to be the back channel to convince so-and-so to like you. No, you're not. This person, if they want to reconcile with me, inbox me. One nice tweet, one message, one thing. They can do it. They're not going to do that because I'm a competitor, right? Because I'm smarter than these people. Because I met with Dugan before these people ever knew who Dugan was. And I got canceled for it. And then they decided to get boosted for it. I talked about patriotic socialism before these people were even calling themselves socialists. I did this. Everything these people did, I did a year or 2 years or 3 years before these people. And I got canceled for it and smeared for it and attacked for it. And they never spoke up or supported me during that process. And then, when these people first started doing their thing, I boosted them. All of those people, I have given them platforms. I have given them opportunities and all of that. I've been nothing but kind to these people. And then whenever I get attacked, they see it as an opportunity for themselves. That's all they see it as, is a great opportunity for themselves. So they can all go to hell as far as I'm concerned. And don't ask me about them again. Seriously, I'm sick and tired of talking about these people. There's less than 300 of them in the whole country. They don't matter. And there's a bunch of different categories of them, and they're all fighting among themselves, and they're all, backstabbing each other, because that's what they do. Backstabbers backstab, traitors betray, and what they've done to me, they're going to do to each other pretty soon, because that's how these people are, right? That's what traitors do. That's what backstabbers do, right? And, and cooperating with these people, I'll just tell you this, right? I mean, look, you all are free people and all of that, but cooperating with these people is the equivalent of saying that what's been done to me is somehow okay, right? And if you think that what has been done to me, I mean, I'm not going into great detail, but the astronomical lengths people have gone to try and embarrass me, to, and all that. If you think that that's okay, you're not someone I want to work with. It's not okay, right? And if you work with these people, and if you are determined to be in the same group as these people, you are saying that somehow it's okay what these people have done. And it is not, right? These are not good people. These are not good people. They're backstabbers. They're wreckers. They're traitors. And, and associating with these people, begging them for attention and all of that is saying that what they did to CPI, what they did to me is okay. And if you think that, I don't like that you think that. And I am disappointed in you if you think that. I'll still work with you and you can work with me, but I have no desire to please these people, and we're not going to chase after these people any longer, right? I'm done with them. I am done with them. I am done with them, and I don't care what they're calling themselves, what new group they're forming, or what stupid thing they're doing lately. I really do not care. I really do not care. All right, next. All right, you were right, Caleb. Damn, it was either Hillary or cackling Kamala. What a shit show. It's going to be Trump. Trump is going to win the election. But I told you all about Kamala Harris, and I told you about how there's a section of the deep state that wants her because she's got the psychology of the regime change apparatus. My book that I wrote about her is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece. Go read the Goodreads reviews of it. Go read about it. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I'm getting texted by different people, and that's okay. You know, I'm in high demand. I am in high demand right now because I was right. And I've known about this shit for a long time, and I'm absolutely right. And, I've known about this stuff for a long time, and I just, I take this seriously. I study this stuff with a huge amount of depth. I research this stuff. I take this seriously because I want to win and I actually care about this. Other people are just trying to make a buck on social media. I actually care. And that's why I wrote this book about Kamala Harris years before anybody talked about this. I was talking about Kamala Harris. And I mean, I take this very, very seriously. I understand politics. I understand world events. And, there you go, And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry if I'm not normal enough for you, right? You want me to, I guess I should go bang my head against a wall and make myself stupider so I can be normal enough to be accepted by these assholes. Fuck yeah, fuck them. Seriously, I hate to show you all my negative side, but I just need to take a break. And since I need to take a break, I actually have had a piece of music I wanted to put on for quite some time. So I am going to put on, this is a jazz version, a cool jazz version of the song Eye of the Tiger that I found on the internet, like that somebody recorded. And I'm going to take a little break here and take a glass of water, and then I'll come back and answer the rest of the super chats.
Back on the street, I did my time, took my chances. Went the distance, I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happened so fast. You trade your passion for glory. Don't lose your grip on the dreams of the past. You must fight just to keep them alive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night. He's watching us all with the eye of the tiger, eye of the tiger. Face to face, out in the heat, hanging tough, staying hungry. They'll stack the odds till we take to the street for the kill with the skill to survive. It's the eye of the tiger, it's the thrill of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night. He's watching us all with the eye of the tiger, eye of the tiger. Watch out.
There we go. Thanks, everybody. Everyone in the world is texting me and calling me right now. And so it's funny. Usually the Eye of the Tiger song pumps you up. But that was a nice, jazz, smooth jazz version of it that I found online. Very sweet. Very sweet. So, but yes, I've been talking about Kamala and the deep state and all that for years. Anyway, that laugh. She laughs when she's getting angry, and she does that to like protect herself. And that becomes very clear in interviews. Like she's trying to not look like an angry woman. She's trying to not scare the audience by revealing the real rage that she has. So in order to do that, she starts laughing to cover up her rage. And that's how Kamala has been for a long time. No shocker. So there we go. Yeah, that's what the laugh is. So we are innovators. We're ahead of the game. We're ahead of the game, and we're doing great stuff, and we're getting real shit done. And, yeah. There's a job that needs to be done, and we're going to do it. We got a job to do, and we're going to do it. And that job involves getting to the masses of people. And it involves not running an internet social media grift. It involves getting to the masses of people. We got a job to do. This is an interesting one. I lived in Ohio in 2004. I was in high school. And at the time, I did not think it was rigged. There were some things I had questions about. Like, I know in like some of the more liberal areas, they didn't have as many voting machines, and in some of the more conservative areas, like the one I was in, they had plenty of voting machines. I will say that in 2004, I went to see Michael Moore at Kent State University. And I actually wrote an essay about this a long time ago that never got published. And I wish I could dig it up because it was a pretty good piece. But I remember Michael Moore, the filmmaker, who was much better back then. Now he's awful, but he was, he was against the war in Iraq and stuff. And he came to Kent State University. And I went to this Michael Moore vote against Bush, vote for John Kerry rally. It was like a socialist rally. I mean, they were there and they were going to stop the wars and they wanted health care for all. And the labor unions were there and the Green Party was there. And I mean, it was a real, mobilization. And I remember thinking, even when I was a kid, like, do they realize John Kerry doesn't agree with them about any of this? Like, the Democrat didn't agree with them about anything. But it was like Bush was a symbol of everything going wrong in the country. The violations of civil liberties, racism, police brutality, income, the wages and living standards going down. And I mean, Bush became the catch-all, the symbol of everything that was wrong in the country. And it was like a socialist, anti-imperialist kind of rally. Michael Moore was supporting the Iraqi resistance, comparing them to George Washington and the Minutemen and saying, we're the British Empire now and the Iraqis. I mean, it was... And, what was sad is that all that energy was being channeled into voting for the Democrats. But I also think that, I don't know. And I know Greg Palast has written that book arguing that it was rigged. And I think there's a chance it was, because if John Kerry had won that election, it would have been a huge boost to all those people in the room. All those people in that room who were, in revolt against the way the country was going, which they then blamed on Bush. They were actually mad about capitalism and imperialism. Oh, John, I was actually mad about they were actually mad about capitalism and imperialism. And it was a very interesting election, the 2004 election. Let me just put it that way. What was also interesting about the 2004 election was that you'll remember that I think it was Pat Buchanan. He said this election is Michael Moore versus Mel Gibson. And that was true. That summer, two movies hit the theaters. Fahrenheit 9/11, which was basically a product of French imperialism. It was the European imperialists against the U.S. imperialists, the German, French, Belgian, Italian imperialists that didn't approve of what Britain and America were doing and didn't like Bush. They kind of backed Michael Moore, and he made this anti-Bush film. which honestly, Michael Moore is a good filmmaker. Fahrenheit 9/11 was not his best film. Bowling for Columbine is great. The healthcare movie Sicko was great, but I didn't really like Fahrenheit 9/11. I mean, it was just kind of, at some points it kind of dragged, and it was like, what's the point? It's just like everything you could possibly criticize Bush for. There wasn't like a central message. But it was very much the French, the Germans, the Italians, the Belgians, it was the other imperialists who didn't approve of Bush and the neocons. They backed that film. And then Mel Gibson made Passion of the Christ. And Mel Gibson, we now know, they called it anti-Semitic at the time. But it was revealed later that Mel Gibson was what they call a trad Catholic. He was like an E. Michael Jones kind of guy. He didn't like Jews, and he was a traditionalist Catholic with anti-Semitic beliefs. That was Mel Gibson. Hold on. Everyone in the world is texting me. It's texts I can't ignore, business texts, etc. All right. And it was Michael and Passion of the Christ. Mel Gibson was a far right guy with an anti-Semitic perspective, right? And Michael Moore was, pandering to the far left, kind of a social democrat. It was an all over the place election. So, it was neocon Republicans versus liberal Democrats. It was the actual candidates on the ballot were nowhere near as radical, but you had a very far right filmmaker who made a film that offended a lot of Jewish people and had, far right trad Catholic beliefs. And you had a social democrat guy who defended Cuba and stuff and had kind of been around communism at various points. He was friendly with Workers' World in the 80s and stuff like that. And he made this other film, and it was, I don't know, it was a shape of things to come. I think that election hinted that there were things to come. And what's also interesting is both of them, both Michael Moore and Mel Gibson, were anti-Israel. Michael Moore dedicated his book, Dude, Where's My Country, to the memory of Rachel Corrie. And Mel Gibson said a lot of anti-Semitic things. And so it's weird. It's like the anti-Israel fringe of American politics came together, and one made a film that helped the Republicans, one made a film that helped the Democrats. It was a very weird election. Mike, you are my brother. And, you have been through some of the same frustrations I've been through. And, we've known each other a long time. And, it's hard to keep going in the circles that we're in. I'll just tell you that much. But we do. And, we know that right is on our side. And we've seen what this means around the world. And we believe in what we're doing. And we keep going. All right. Thank you. Yes, an asset is one whose behavior can be predicted. It's not somebody who's voluntarily working for the intelligence agencies. It's not somebody who, is on the payroll or something. It's somebody who they can predict their behavior. And that is largely what intelligence agencies do, is they try to make things happen. And they try to be very far up the food chain so that no one can see that they're involved. And they try to just nudge. There's a book by Cass Sunstein. Cass Sunstein, the husband of Samantha Power, he wrote this book called Nudge. And he talks about, how they play these games. They nudge. So there we go. Why don't they just get us all like Seth Rich? Well, let's be clear. The Seth Rich thing, it looks like it is what it is, but we're not sure. It's not confirmed that he was the source. We don't know that he was the source of the emails. We don't know that that's why he died. It certainly looks that way to a lot of people, and I'm certainly sympathetic to that, but I'm not 100% sold on the Seth Rich thing. I mean, it's possible that that's what happened, that he was the source and he got killed. That's certainly possible. And I don't think the Clintons are above that. The Clintons are certainly ruthless and all that, but I'm not sold on that story yet. But we're all not the people who leak the emails. You know what I mean? I mean, you and I are just talking this on the internet, right? I mean, right? With me, all they have to do, I say anything, they go, "Oh, he's RT. Oh, I bet you heard that from Putin." Right? With me, they just show the picture of me and Putin. They show the picture of me and Dugan. They just, oh, so I mean, if 9/11 was an inside job, I could like show you the plans and hold them up on TV, and they would just go, "Ah, you don't believe that RT guy, do you?" So people are a danger, and people become a target of the deep state in different ways. Right. So, I don't know. I mean, it depends. But, if Seth Rich was indeed the guy who leaked the documents, that would obviously make him way more of a target, largely because they'd want to make an example out of him to scare anybody else who ever worked for the Clintons from doing something like that. So, but why don't they do us all like Seth Rich? Well, we're all not in that position, right? I don't work for the Clintons, right? I mean, it's complicated. So there you go. I'm good. Thanks. I always knew I was good because I'm a narcissist. Just kidding. Anyway, there we go. Thank you, Dan. Much appreciated. Glad you like the work that we do. We're on here every night. So, look, Russia, their messaging. I posted just recently the speech by Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister. Very, very good. They are emphasizing opposition to colonialism. They are emphasizing the new world that's emerging and multipolarity and the golden billion and all. I mean, this is Russia's analysis, and what I hear from Russian government officials about the need for traditional family values, about the need to oppose the legacy of colonialism and imperialism, about economic development and growth. It's amazing. Russian officials. So that particular interview that you're highlighting, it's good stuff. And it's the line, right? You're going to hear that from Lavrov. You're going to hear that from Maria Zakharova. You're going to hear that from Putin. You're going to hear that from the Russian government. That's their position, right? Peace through development, win-win cooperation, multipolarity, family values, traditional values, growth, education, multipolarity. So, yeah. The masses agree with Maduro about the assassination attempt, not with left Twitter. Yes, Maduro sees that even though Trump was not a good guy to him, the people who tried to kill Trump are also the people who tried to kill him. And, and my analysis, go and watch the stream from last night, right? Nicolas Maduro, the leader of a communist government, gave condolences and nothing but friendliness to Trump in the aftermath of the attempted assassination, because it came from exactly the same place that tried to kill him. And he understands that. Things are complicated. Things are very, very, very complicated. There is nuance. And, Donald Trump did a lot of bad things as president, but the people that are backing Kamala Harris and, the regime change foreign policy apparatus, they don't want him to be president. They don't trust him. And maybe that'll push Trump in a good direction. I tried to take free healthcare on the Crucible. Huh? You lost me there. I don't like Discord app. I don't know what that is, but the Crucible, is that like a play or the play by Arthur Miller? Did you go into an oven to try and get your free health care? I have no idea what you're talking about, Muckrocracy. I don't use Discord app. Every time I've ever tried to use Discord app, the result has been a huge amount of surprise, surprise, Discord. It's a drama app. It just creates drama. I want nothing to do with that app. Would I accept the Democratic Party's nomination? I will not accept, nor will I seek, the nomination of my party for the presidency of the United States. Mainly because of the fact that that I have no political aspirations. I'm a journalist, right? I couldn't do the work that I do now. Be an RT reporter, write books and all of that if I was a candidate for office, the way the election laws are set up. So if the Democrat Party was to nominate me, John, I would respectfully decline. Out of love for my country and nation, I must decline the offer of the presidency. Is that the penguin from Batman or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, okay. And JD Vance, I gave my thoughts on an earlier stream. Let me just say that I like a lot of what he said about Ukraine. And I like the fact that he wrote this Hillbilly Elegy book, which is about the low-income white workers who mainstream media ignores and woke people also ignore. I have concerns that Hillbilly Elegy is one of those kind of rags to riches, poor people are responsible for their own conditions books. That concerns me, but I'm going to go read it and judge it for myself. J.D. Vance, he went to Harvard. He's very manufactured. He was against Trump at the beginning, but then he changed. So it's complicated, right? I like the way he sounds. Let me put it that way. I like the way he sounds. So, we'll see what he actually does. I don't judge politicians by what they do or by what they say, but rather by what they do. J.D. Vance sounds great. He's a huge supporter of Israel, but he didn't mention Israel once in his speech. He sounds good right now. We'll just have to see. All righty. All right. And on that note, folks, I got to end this because there's about 15 people I got to call. And oh boy, it's one of those nights. One of those nights. All righty. All righty. All right. New upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.